Torpedo, NTDO 212, ComCheck.
DPS, go. Inco, go. PUS, go. Surgeon, go. Booster, go. Copy that. We have a go from you guys.
This is Talking Sound.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talking Sound podcast, the only podcast on the internet where -10 is a number to be desired. Coming at you this week, once again, from the road, I am Chris Jordan, your host, and today we are here with engineer and audio engineering instructor, Jeremy Dudman from the Art Institute of Houston. How are you doing?
Doing very well. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. I am so glad that we actually caught back up. This last week, I actually came into Houston for a corporate gig with Ovation Events out of Tennessee. They're fantastic. I've worked with them for years. And that's where I first met awesome. Jeremy a couple years ago.
2 years back, working another gig. So,
and I guess we could just kind of lost touch, ran into each other at the gig and got to talking, and ends up he's an instructor at the Art Institute in recording arts, and thought that we would have him on the show. So tell us a little bit about everything, Jeremy.
Originally from Atlanta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Duluth, Georgia, and a little suburb, kind of like Sugarland, Katy, if you're in Houston, or I know it's worldwide. So a little suburb. Grew up playing music, started playing double bass orchestra, 6th grade. For some reason, I don't know why. It was either percussion or bass. I remember coming home, I could still envision myself saying, "Mom, I want to play the bass." And I don't know, just plucking the bass. So started playing bass. Soon after played guitar, borrowed a guitar from my cousin. I still remember him saying, "Oh, one day you'll like the guitar more than the bass." And I like him equally. I guess I'm more of a bass player, but it kind of happened. So I can thank him for that. Soon after that, I started getting into a Tascam 4-track recorder, tape recorder, and bouncing between and learning. And my friend had one down the street, and so we were just recording to that. And then all of a sudden, I remember one day, my parents' computer had 14 gigs total on the hard drive. So we got this computer program. It's like, oh, we can do everything in the computer. And then so it sounded like crap, and it was horrible. And but we thought we could do the world. And so I still have those recordings somewhere, and they're horrible. I guess I could say cool songs, but they're horrible recordings. So it was fun though, you know.
And I've got the same thing. Like I was on the radio for years here in Houston on the local avant-garde show, and I would bring in 30 to 40 minutes of music every month. And I guess a year or so ago, I went through and put all of that music actually on the internet on my HC Productions site.
That's brave.
Well, it is. And I don't know of too many people that have 30 plus hours of music of their own. And it's pretty intense. There's a whole volume of music there.
Wow.
And, right now I'm in the midst of transcribing all of the radio shows that I was on, describing them. And that was even more ambitious, I think.
Yeah.
But, just going through and listening to them and things that I hadn't heard in years, like, wow, I wish that I had the technical knowledge that I have now.
Right.
And could go back and be like, hey, kid, check this out.
Oh, yeah.
And just show them how to tweak that one knob that would solve that issue that I hear in that one track.
Or don't buy the $15 Guitar Center, free mic on Black Friday. I remember still getting that mic, and that's the same mic we use for everything. And it's just like...
Yeah. I remember I had a set of CAD 22s, the ones that they used to sell 2 for $99 all the time, man. And they were a decent mic to start off with, just for some acoustic guitar and vocals. But I've definitely stepped up since then. I've got some nice audio
I've seen your setup
like
and
that.
everything. Yeah, definitely.
So and it's interesting how that progression happens. How did you come to the point where you decided that is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to be an audio engineer specifically?
Actually, it came out of being, and still comes out of being, a failed songwriter.
Okay.
Oh, I say failed for now.
Hopefully
someday, I still want to write songs and everything. So when I got to college, I went to college for music, and it was actually commercial music at Florida State. So it was a lot of music classes. I just knew I needed the music background.
Sure.
For some reason, I always loved orchestra, but I wasn't necessarily crazy about the music, but I was crazy about bass. And so I would play, and for some reason, I always kept playing, and then all these opportunities would open up. So that's what kind of college I say, well, let me go for music, at least something tied to music, because there's tons of different degrees you can get, just science based or whatever. And We'll probably talk about that more in a bit for kind of where I teach now. But went for music, and so I kept on trying to do songwriting things, and then nobody really liked that. And then I kind of said, well, let me record. And then I actually did live sound. We had an on-site venue, Club Down Under at Florida State, which is awesome. Indie bands and comedians and everybody would come through. And so that's why I started doing live sound. And then, because it took a couple years to get into classes. So then once I got into the classes, I felt, I mean, I don't know if anybody actually liked them, but I could record, and I think people respected that more. So you just kind of notice what you're strongest at. And they kind of went that route.
Absolutely.
So that was recording.
And that was absolutely how I got into it as well. I remember distinctly, like I strayed from my bass ways and became an acoustic guitarist. I will admit it. I became much more of a guitarist than a bassist.
We forgive you.
I still come back every once in a while and play my bass because it's my baby.
Yeah.
But I definitely became much more of the acoustic guitarist songwriter type.
Yeah.
Before I started making my avant-garde music. And I remember specifically telling my brother, giving him a bullet drunkenly one night. Like, this is for you the day I start writing jingles. The day I start writing jingles, you have full permission to use it.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. Nowadays, I'd be like, hey, I don't mind writing a jingle.
I'll write a jingle.
I'll write a jingle all day long, man. If you want me to write
That's
a jingle.
before you're making money and worrying about all that, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was
Paying
about
bills.
the art.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that's something that you and I over the last week have really talked about is the concept of maintaining, the concept of, always trying to maintain a foot on the ground and yet still achieving your art at the same time.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is. It's very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, even before the show, we were talking about a couple life decisions that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
We won't bring them up, but
you have to.
Yeah.
You have to pay the bills. This is a house that my wife and I just bought, and roof over our head and cool little studio, and we share everything, and it's awesome. But I have to pull my own weight, so
that's
I can't. It's a teacher told me a funny story in high school. He said, "Oh, when you go to college, date a piano player because you always need an accompanist."
Yep.
So you get a free accompanist. So, I might say for audio engineers, whether female or male, find a partner that at least has a full-time job, because if you're both artists, it makes it even more difficult.
Exactly.
So I'm thankful for her, but you have to pull your own weight. So you have to do some things that you like. It's related, but pays the bills.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, Ovation was really the company that got me. I guess I'd done some corporate AV, but nothing ever on that level.
Yeah.
I'd worked at churches, things like that.
Yeah.
But once I found that, it was like, ooh wee, like this is kind of a different level, and I actually thoroughly enjoy it. I worked a gig with a couple guys from a sound company in Austin a couple weeks ago, and there I am as a video op at the corporate gig, doing my thing, talking with the tech person, about the presentations and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I could literally just feel waves of pain coming off of these audio engineers because they're rock and roll guys, man. Wow. And that's what they do. Yeah. Like, they came in with the full-on digital console. And I'm like, you got a podium and two headworms, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need the huge digital console and compression and all that. Like, it's cool, but you really don't need it in that circumstance.
I think we're both the same in that being people.
Yes.
AV is perfect for that.
Exactly.
In that, you have to, and that's why people struggle, because they just want to sit and just put up a fader and walk away. And it happened at a show we just went to the other night, and the audio person wasn't there at the gig, and the band wanted to start, and they asked me, Jeremy, where would an audio person be right now? I go, well, they should be behind the console, but
they're probably in the green room.
Or where's
or
the food?
In the back alley.
So there could be various places. But I said, well, they should be. It's showtime. They should be at the soundboard. But that's rock and roll. You could start late and everything.
Exactly.
But dealing with the people, I mean, I like that part. That's one of the guys we were working with this past week, and I were talking. He said, the people that do the big shows, that they don't. The client doesn't remember that. They say, oh, it sounded good or whatever, but it's more the interaction with say the smaller rooms that we were doing.
Exactly.
The interaction. That's what they remember. Oh, I want to work with that person again.
Yep, absolutely.
And bands will do that too. Hey, I want that sound person.
Even 2 days later, I was sitting outside of a totally different room, and my presenter from the first day came by.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, how's it going, buddy? You having a good conference? You know, like you really do get a different interaction with the clientele whenever you're working breakout rooms or smaller rooms as opposed to general session, things like that. Yeah. And, one of the big things I'm about is, like I said, maintaining, always making sure that you have some means by which to ply your trade. Yeah. Because, I mean, hey, it may not be a multi-track studio that you're doing. It may not be a rock and roll stage, but I guarantee you the knowledge that you will learn will be applied at some point. Oh, yeah. And I can say I knew a lot going into AV, and I'm sure you could say too, then you learn a lot on the job. And that's when the art of not saying no, and you say, can you do that? Yeah. Let me see what I can do. Yeah, and then you pull up Google real quick and you look it up, and hopefully there's some videos or somebody else had the same trouble, and you take it. And you know your boundaries, and you say, your threshold. Like, I'm not a lighting person whatsoever. I would not take that. But yeah, yes. And you learn, and then you're a better tech, and then you come home and you surprise your wife. Oh yeah, I knew. Check this out. Yeah, I know. I can hook this up. I got the TV up now, so and it's all fun. Moving from that, let's talk a little bit about Lucky Run Studios. That is another project that you're involved in outside of the Art Institute. I mean, the Art Institute is where you work and teach and everything else. Tell us a little bit about Lucky Run. What kind of stuff do y'all do there? Lucky Run Studio, I've been there almost 4 years. It's crazy. Time flies. So I moved here kind of the first day, December 30th, 2010. I just remember it because I've been here. I don't know why I remember that, New Year's and everything. So I started working. It was a friend of a friend just recorded at the studio, and I started working there. And the owner, Michael Mikolka, is an awesome guy, very gracious, and let me come in and start doing some work. And so we have a few engineers now, and we're kind of out in the suburbs. It's an awesome studio that's built on, you could say it's a home studio, but it's not. It's basically, it's on a ranch land separate. You drive up a long driveway and you see a big house and everything, and it's separate from the house and everything. It's its own building built from the ground up. Michael's owner studio and rehearsal space in LA for years, has all the experience from that. Reconnected with an old girlfriend. They got married here and everything, and so he moved to Texas. And we do all different types of styles, and it's that kind of home away from home. Every room in the studio has a window, which is awesome. Oh, that's great. So you're in the control room, you look straight out, you see cows walk by. That's awesome. Or various things, whatever. You see if it's raining, you see, at least you have an eye to the outside world, because we just in the dark cavern just go, and it just makes the day better. Some people like to pull the shades. I always open the shades, even at school. The first thing I walk into a room, I open all the shades, and I just like light, because we're so used to not being with light. That's absolutely true. If I can get light, I'll take it. Yep. But not everybody's like that. But yeah, it's an individual studio in that ISO rooms. So it's a control room, and then there's 3 ISO rooms. One's a drum set up, and 2 other ISO rooms. Oh, the lobby's also wired up. The upstairs is wired up, so we can have a full band going. Oh, that's full great. Pro Tools rig, and so you can have percussion upstairs and somebody downstairs. We have camera systems so everybody can see each other. That's fantastic. So we do all different types of acts, all styles, country, rock. Wow. Done some gospel and barbershop quartet. Now, what's your personal favorite? I guess from the failed songwriter side is the rock alternative. I guess nowadays it's indie. Yeah. Okay. When I was growing up in the 90s, it was alternative. Sure, it was alternative rock. Smashing Pumpkins is my band still. Okay. So, my tastes have evolved, I guess, getting into other bands and so forth. Sure. But I guess that style, and unfortunately, I probably haven't done that much in that style, but that's the route that I want to go. And that's, either going between the studio or here, kind of the production route. So, I don't mind. I like working in the studio. But you get a lot of bands, they pay for 2 hours. They come in 2 hours. They expect the world. Yes. And then you listen to, I was just listening to mixes when you were on your way over here, and old mixes, like, oh my God, it's, you love it, but you're like, if only I had 12 hours to work on that. Well, yeah. And I've had the same situation. I I do like in-space rehearsal demos, things like that, you know, where it's like, hey, we aren't trying to get the world. We're just trying to capture a representative performance of a song.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to make a band or an artist understand that you should really only be doing about 5 songs here. I understand you have 30 written. We will get to those.
Yeah.
But right now, you need to choose the 5 best songs that cover the scope of your oeuvre, and let's focus on those, because your 2 hours will be much better spent doing those 5, taking a break, coming back, doing them in a different order.
Yeah.
Coming back, I do it in a set mentality, like you're on stage.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you come back, play it in a different order. And then at that point, you have some variations to choose from.
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to pick yourself apart otherwise. If you go in and try to get it in one take, or no, let's start that over. No. Like, you can kill that horse so quick, man.
Right.
You know, and how many times do you sit on the other side of the glass just like, oh God, that hurts.
Well, because there's the idea too, because you listen to these awesome bands that
Mm-hmm.
everybody loves, say the Beatles or whatever, you know, and they say, oh, they did it in a million takes, but they say, oh, well, they did it the first take. Let's just say they did, but they're the Beatles.
Yeah.
They're good. They're there because of a reason. There is a reason. Not every band is like that, but every band thinks they read some little book that says, oh, they only did one take and it was a magic take. And
sure,
I can do that.
I've done it. And it scares the heck out of my buddy Alan, because he's recorded me with my avant-garde music. And like I was telling you before, I am a commit to the mix engineer, man. When my vocal verb is the way I want it, I will never want it to change. So go ahead and hit record. We can run that verb straight over the vocal. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
And I will never be the one to give my engineer hassle about the way it sounds later, because that's the way I want it to sound.
That's how you want. Yeah.
And, you know, Alan Parsons is a prime example. He had the magic reel for, you know, Dark Side of the Moon. 1 reel of tape, no splices.
Yeah.
Dude, he's freaking Alan Parsons, man. Like, I challenge you to be able to do that.
Yeah. And mine is
not everyone can.
Same Jeff Emmerich. I saw him at AES and he gave the talk and read his book Here, There, and Everywhere, the autobiography. Yep. And he talks about, you know, I mean, they only had 4 tracks and bouncing this and that, you know, committing to the mix.
Yeah.
So that's what they had to work with.
Now, I know you said that you haven't had a whole lot of analog experience. You did some when you were in master's school, things like that. Yeah. Between analog or digital, which one are you more partial to? Which one, if you had your druthers, which one would you be working with?
I guess it depends on the band. I see tape nowadays as maybe an effect, and people are going to hate me for that. But, you know, like they had Clasp was the big thing at AES when I went in 2010. And I thought, oh, that's going to be it. Because they had a Lindrum machine going through it. And they said, this is through Clasp. This is just through Pro Tools. And you go, oh, it sounds better, of course, through tape. But then, you know, you still have to have the tape machine and everything. So
you do have to have a tape machine. You have to have a maintained tape machine. And
know somebody that knows how to do
how
it.
to maintain it.
And, you know, have reels of tape.
Upcoming video, by the way, everybody.
Nice,
upcoming video, how to maintain your reel-to-reel machine.
I'll be watching.
And
it's been a few years.
Tascam 4-track.
Yeah.
Because that is still the heart and soul of my analog studio.
There you go. I have one in there. It's kind of broken.
I still rock my... I have my buddy, Wavy Dave, here in Houston, actually gave me an entire flat of studio master tapes. Nice. And he was like, whenever you run out, I have about 7 more boxes like that.
Awesome.
And I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, I got all these blanks years ago from a studio friend of mine to put my album to, and just never did it. And now I have all these tapes. I was like, all right. It's getting harder and harder to find them to be able to actually record that. And what's funny is that they're still sold. Like, you can still go out and buy a new Tascam analog 4-track. And I love that. Yeah. I love it.
For now, well, and it goes in, we were talking about before, it goes in waves.
It does.
My friend in DC saying cassette tape. This was a few years ago. Cassette tapes are coming back.
They are. Like the actual concept of a mixtape and all that kind of stuff.
I get the idea. Maybe in a 2015 fashion, you know, might be slightly different. But
I always said that, you know, I kind of have the theory that the concept album and the concept of an album as a whole kind of died out with 8-track. And bear with me for a second with the theory here, because I don't know if you ever owned an 8-track.
I through parents.
Okay.
And I've ruined a few trying to put them in.
I was like 8 years old and had one. I actually had one of the little adapters where you could pop in a cassette tape into your 8-track.
Nice.
That was high tech. Nice. But and you had to listen to things in chunks. Mm-hmm. You know, like your track, so to speak, like track 3 was really like song 4, 5, 6 on the album, you know? So, and typically they didn't make it to where track 4 on there was the hit. Like it was track 5. So you had to listen to something else to get to it. And then if you wanted to hear it again, you had to flip the tape over and listen to the other song so you could get back to the beginning of it. Yeah. Because good Lord, man, if you fast forward or rewound them, you could just tear the whole thing up.
And cassette. I mean, that's yes. Cassette too, yeah.
And I don't know. I found that interesting that if you go back and look, like right up around the same time that straight analog tape came out and everyone started releasing cassettes, like concept albums and things like that just started dwindling away from the market. Really interesting the way you were talking about waves in the market, things like that. And the fact that tapes making a comeback, you know, even pressing vinyl has made a huge comeback. Huge comeback. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I'm an analog freak. I love analog.
If I had the choice, I mean, I would pick maybe analog console and all the analog summing and analog. Nothing beats an analog compressor.
Yes.
For example, no plugin can do it.
No,
I won't name any names. Some come close, but nothing does an analog compressor.
Yeah.
So having analog, maybe outboard gear and all of that, but then having the ease of editing and the speed of digital.
Absolutely.
The hybrid approach.
And that's kind of where I've gone with my studio is really like I still do a lot of recording onto the 4-track. And I go through a lot of, like you've seen, hard gear, everything else. But I've got a PreSonus interface right there. So whenever I'm done, I can go in and track 1, output, and record it. Yeah. And still have that analog feel on the front end. Yeah. And then put it through all my analog compression and everything on the way out.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and be able to mix it, with, like you said, with the ease of digital.
Yeah. But, I mean, I love all that. I mean, I did in grad school in my project, I did surround sound recording, but we did everything through tape to Pro Tools and in real time. So then we had to figure out, okay, how do we rig it to tape? But then we can't listen off the repro. We have to listen off. We had to use the console. So at least it was a duality. And so we had to listen live. The band listened off of that. Otherwise there would be the delay. And so then on a listen back, say, okay, hold on. And some of that's still on that piece of tape over there.
Nice.
But I mean, it's good. It was the effect though that we wanted that. So
it is,
you know, and you do it with one band and the style of that artist, it fit. Kind of was to me the alternative indie style. You know, somebody that's pop, that the drums need to cut through the mix, that, you know, digital, it fits the style of today.
Yes, so. It does. Absolutely. And especially the modern style of mixing where they're, at least in my ears, whenever I put on a pair of headphones, there's not like a whole lot of dimensional space. As far as, you know, like if you go back and listen to a lot of the old vinyl, things like that, you can really like imagine the depth of the stage. Yeah. Whenever you're listening. Whereas in a lot of modern mixing technique, like I'm a Rush head, and you listen to the last 3-4 Rush albums since Terry Brown left, and it's a new modern style of mixing, engineering, mastering. It's all right there. You know, everything's square up in front. And it's framed a little bit differently in the earphones. It's interesting.
I have a book over there. I remember reading that, you know, going through history, how the technology influences the music.
Absolutely it does. You know, absolutely.
You'd think it'd go the other way, but it's, you know, how people would write for a 45. We still have that idea of writing for a 45. And
that's where the concept of the single came from.
Yeah, the single, that's it. So it's interesting to see, you know, with MP3s and Wave that it's endless. Well, how is that going to influence the music?
Well, hopefully there will be people who start to move into. I'm a huge classical fan. I listen to a lot of classical music in my studio and in my workshop for Austin Hot Mods. To me, it's inert. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah, that's why I still play. I still play in an orchestra.
Well, I mean, like, I love my Rush, I love my Pink Floyd, but, you know, sometimes whenever you've got a 700-degree soldering iron in your hand, like the air drums ain't what you want to start getting into, you know?
Yeah.
Probably need to be nice and cool, man. So I listen to a lot of that, and it really, I find, gives me, it's like a palate cleanser. I can come back and listen to things with a totally different aspect.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, one thing I'd love to talk with you about, especially with the topic of technology influencing the music, revisiting that for a minute. Have you noticed technology influencing the way that mixing and engineering is not only existing, but the way that it's being taught?
Well, because still at the school level, we're still taking it back. A lot of the students come in, they'll have a Pro Tools rig, they'll have Ableton or whatever.
Sure.
And they can make music in the box without even recording an acoustic instrument. You know, they don't even know what an orchestra is.
Sure.
You know, so they take a class to learn what the instruments are and how to record something that's put a microphone up and record it. So we put them back into the analog world. Some of them go kicking and screaming into that and they don't understand. But then I say, but that's how Pro Tools, it's the same thing. Just
ones and zeros, man.
It's modeled after the same thing.
It's a digital assumption. Yeah, that's all.
I mean, just the routing, it makes much more sense in a Pro Tools environment if you see that analog environment. Now on the teaching side, I mean, I have to teach of how I work in the real world. You know, I love teaching, but it's tough for me to say, okay, I'm going to teach full time because I want to keep working and then bring those experiences, of course, back. And, having artists say, oh no, let's go back and tweak that one little line. Oh, let's go back and tweak that thing because they know they can do it.
Yep.
So then we kind of have to teach that, or I have to make sure, I hope that the student is prepared for that because that's all we can do. You know, you can't teach them everything, but you can hopefully teach them the idea that you're open to it and to keep learning and to know that this might happen. What do I do in this situation? I think this is kind of like that other situation. Let me apply it to this other one.
One of the last episodes that we had with Alan Cunningham, he was actually talking about the subtraction of ego from the mixing process and how you really do have to subtract yourself from that. And man, you've put in just as much work into that mix as they put in the room playing it.
Yeah.
But you've really got to kind of let some of that slide, and you want that vocal dry. You don't want any verb. You're sure. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, man. I don't like verb. I want it clean. Okay. Like, it kicks you in the nerds because you know what you should do to make it sound the way that your trained ears should make it sound. But at the same time, you have to please the client.
Yeah. Somebody at AES stood up during I think it was Dave Pensato, and they said, what do you do when somebody's doing that exact thing? You know it's wrong. He goes, shut up, sit down. You're asking the wrong question. You're not the artist. They're the artist. It doesn't even matter what you think. You know, I mean, you get them in the right pocket. What I like to do, mix for an hour-ish, 2 hours, depends on their budget, of course.
Sure.
And then I say, come in the room. Because I personally, sorry, this is being honest, I can't stand doing, playing a mix and then somebody go, ooh, you know, just too much of that. I go, walk away for about 30 minutes an hour. Let me get in the pocket.
Yep.
And then you come in and make all the notes. And then sometimes I just come in and go, cool, that's awesome. Or say, no, I don't like that reverb. Or no, I want it to sound more like this reverb or whatever.
Sure.
And then they're right. And then I just go with whatever they say.
Absolutely. And I mean, my recommendation is always like, if you can give it a day before you come back and listen to something, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Like, in my mind, the further the separation is, the much more honest with yourself you're going to be. And I mean, even whenever I do live recordings for bands and stuff, and like the end of the show, here's your MP3s on your thumb drive, like, listen to that tomorrow, guys. Like, don't throw that into the iPod on the way home. Like, you will pick yourself apart all night long, and then want to go in and redo it.
Well, they'll put it into the laptop and listen to the little speakers.
And
that's another issue. So well, I guess that's a way, you know, teaching the technology influencing that, you know, listening on, you know, checking mono. Yes. I don't want to say it's not an issue, but yes, it's not as much of an issue as in checking little speakers.
Yeah.
Or checking headphones or earbuds, things like that.
You think that, though. I mean, I did broadcast for the last year.
Well, that's another...
One of the... If you're putting things out to broadcast, you really do have to have a different level than what's on that CD.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially if, let's say you're going to do a guest spot on an AM show. Those bass frequencies ain't going to sing the way they do on an FM station.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can make it to where, you can listen to it on a mono system, on a stereo system, on a car system, on earbuds, and it sounds pretty uniform throughout, you're doing a great job.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I mean, I think of, you know, checking, say, stereo mono mixes, say the Beatles. That's now in checking headphone, car.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody listens in the car. I don't know what they, little earbud mixes, you know, and that's what we have to do, unfortunately. And NS10s are awesome. For that, but then it's hard to find them, and not everybody can find them. And
absolutely,
but and I had the client just the other day, and they say, "Oh, can we listen on those speakers just to make sure?"
Yep,
because they realize, let's the whole inefficiency of the NS10, but the efficiency of the NS10. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, just seeing how history repeats itself, and I think that's learning in an environment like a school environment, or just learning from somebody, the apprenticeship idea. Learning how it was, because it's going to repeat itself.
Oh, yeah.
And then know what to do and hopefully do it better the next time.
Even to this day, whenever I take someone under my wing and start teaching them, I give them what, I'm going to say it a little bit blasphemously, I call it my Bible. It's the Musician's Guide to Audio Engineering.
Yeah.
It's from like the 1980s.
Oh, okay.
You know, you can go out and buy it at any Guitar Center for $20-$25.
Yeah.
And it literally shows like reel-to-reels, all kinds of stuff. It gets updated every few years for MIDI and all that kind of stuff. But like, it breaks things down into the simplest, easiest terms, man. And like, mine is dog-eared like crazy. I literally go through it easily 4 times a year and read it cover to cover.
Oh, yeah.
Because every time I read it, I find something else that I can apply.
Yeah.
And man, it's 15 years down the line, 20 years down the line. I'm still finding new stuff in it.
The best thing about teaching is, probably can't see, is all the books that you get.
Yes.
And you can
quite the library.
You can request books, and then you learn. You say, okay, well, I'm looking into this book and looking into that book, but it is awesome.
I'm using this in my curriculum.
I'm thinking about it. So, but I mean, that's the best part, because you never stop learning, and that's what getting students aware of is the most difficult part.
Exactly, and the one thing I noticed, because I am a crossover, I do video engineering and video editing as well. And whenever I started learning video editing, I learned on deck to deck. And I learned event videography, so there is a formula. And you can't walk into a reception and not get the guest book first, because people aren't going to be signing the guest book in an hour. So like, there are things that you have to do at certain times. Have you noticed with the technology that is punch recording just becoming like the fad? Does everybody just punch record like crazy nowadays? Or I mean, I know I'm not a big punch recorder because I'm a commit to the mix guy. But
well, I will say punch recording though it goes both ways, in that it's so easy to Pro Tools just to hit record and just let it go. I'm a fan of actual punch recording. Now, you can screw up, and awesome thing about Pro Tools, you can still bring it backwards.
Sure.
And it's not like tape where it's destructive and you cut it off. But I have to show some students and some interns say, no, I want to start recording there. Just hit spacebar and play, or we have a transport. You can actually hit play and actually punch me in like a tape machine.
Yes.
And then they go, no, I can just hit record. And I go, you can, but then that's the old school type of mentality. Then you got all that blank space. Yeah, and then it's just more to edit. And then I tell them, well, go edit that out. And it goes, and the person might say, oh no, I'll just leave you that for when you're mixing. I go, no, do it now.
I don't want to deal with your mess.
Yeah. So, and then I had to do that recently. I had to go. I was like, oh, I know who did this. I got to go clean this up.
Yeah.
So it's punch recording, real punch recording is not there because people are a little too nervous. And I get nervous too, but that's the excitement of, okay, I'm going to get it. And you can screw up. That's a good thing about digital.
Right on beat, man.
You can get it, but I love that actual true punch
Yes,
recording.
yes.
I'm a fan of that.
Well, and I mean, I noticed that, like, as things went digital with video, like, I would start getting footage from people, and it would be, because of the ease of editing, it would be willy-nilly. Things would be out of sync, and, you know, they'd go and get a bit over here and some of it over here. And it's like, wow, okay, now we're shooting it like a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, it's a little bit different, but at the same right, it's the same in a lot of studio aspects where, you know, there is an order in which you do things.
Yeah.
You typically try not to lay drums third.
Right.
It can happen.
As many times as you tell somebody, though, they might not listen to you.
Yeah.
And they go, you're going to have to re-record that guitar.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay more money.
This will be a scratch recording. You understand that, don't you?
And for some reason, they don't trust you. But they do it once, and then they learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then they trust you afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a big thing, too. You know, I tell the students, you know, these little tricks of somebody might come in, and I still look young, and I am young, but some of the students are even younger, and, you know, you walk in,
Absolutely.
They're not going to trust you.
Yeah.
But you can do these little things that then they go, oh, okay. And then once you get them, and then they're on your side, and then it's easy.
It's
after
clear
that.
sailing from there. And really it is, you know, people ask me why I don't work with a lot of bands nowadays, things like that. It really does come down to a point of trust between an engineer, a band, the musicians, and the engineer in the studio. You really do have to trust that person a lot, that they're not going to drop you.
Yeah.
And, you know, it becomes very much like a family, especially whenever you start working somewhere like the studio that you're at that has recurring musicians, people that come in for regular projects.
Yeah.
Things like that. You know, you really do start to learn your clientele and start to hone skills in a totally different right.
Yeah, you know what, the first song, it always takes the longest to mix.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of realize what they want, what each person wants. And then by the second or third mix, it's like they walk back and that's good.
Now,
that's good.
Do you have a lot of people coming in like, yeah, you know, I need my vocals to be kind of like 1990s Black Crowes.
I wish. I wish. It'd make it a lot easier. Right? People just come in and sometimes they don't know what, or I say, so who are you thinking of? Or, you know, sometimes they'll kind of channel somebody.
Yeah, because that's every engineer that I know in the studio asks for like influences, you know.
I mean, it would help, if somebody has. I mean, because I remember my first time walking into the studio, they go, okay, who do you want to, you know, as a musician, who do you want to sound like, this and that? And, you know, we're very specific. This person met this person, the Beatles met these guys, and, you know, you come up with whatever story, but at least it gives you an idea of little things that, you know, when you're the musician, you don't realize, but the engineer is listening to
the nuances.
Yeah, the drum sound or this sound or that sound. And then thinking of that and you go, okay, well, that was from 30 years ago, but let's still be forward thinking as well.
Yep.
Which is the most difficult part. Like right now, I feel like reverbs are kind of back. Pop music.
I don't know why they ever went away, but they did.
But yeah, I mean, it got really dry, and then, I mean, it's kind of...
Then it got all auto-tuning.
Yeah. Except for Kanye. He's still auto-tuning. But
that's all right. That's all right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of knowing and kind of pushing the envelope. And that's the fun part.
Absolutely.
And you try to say, hey, what do you think about this? And then you kind of know your limits of what's wasting time in the studio, what's beneficial. And again, going back to teaching, I can't teach that, but I try to, you know, just instill some ideas. Okay, be efficient, but then also push the envelope a little bit.
Absolutely.
Not for the artist in the first time in the studio, but once they've been in the studio.
Yeah, once they get, well, we were talking about that. We were talking about that pre-air, actually, the concept of, if you're looking, this is a little advice for everybody who's listening and watching the show right now. If you're looking at going into the studio for your first time, literally go into the studio. Don't call them. I mean, you can call them and get pricing and things like that. But whenever you narrow it down to a good 4 or 5, go visit the actual studio. They will take the time to walk you around for 30 minutes. They'll find an intern to walk you around and let you sit in a control room or something while the session's happening, you know, something. But it's very easy whenever you walk into that kingdom of tech to be googly-eyed, like immediately, and the knees just turn to jelly, and you want to know about everything. And unfortunately, the second you walk through the door, you're on the clock. You've started paying.
No.
And that's just the way the industry works. You know, it's same thing with a mechanic. As soon as they get it up on that lift, buddy, money starts pouring, you know. The same thing with us with corporate AV.
Yeah.
As soon as we walk through the door, there's that minimum.
Oh, yeah. Which is a good thing.
So you can send me home if you like. If you don't need me, I have plenty of things to do, but I will be getting paid my daily minimum.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I walk through the door. And that's the industry that we work in. So you really do have to kind of, I'm not going to necessarily say buyer beware on that. But I have known some people who have taken advantage in the past of such things.
No, we always have somebody out to the studio to do a tour first.
Absolutely.
We say, hey, get out here. Also because we're kind of in an area where it's hard to find.
Yeah.
So I don't want them late the first session. So it's kind of a trick. You know, so be late to the walk around. That's fine. The tour, and then so when you're actually on the clock,
it's not coming off your clock.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, but then they can see the studio, and then on that side too, I notice sometimes people, I want to say maybe a tip to not over talk a lot of gear, and that's what you realize more and more. You give a tour and you open the mic closet, and you can say every brand name. Yeah. Unless they're an engineer, they just like that one's gold. That one must sound good. So you kind of learn too the art of selling, but selling what they need to know and not what they need to know. Yeah. Really. Yeah. Unless they're an engineer friend, or they always bring, oh, my friend's in audio school. And They go, oh, I got this 1176 and this, and they'll know the numbers, but
yeah. Most of them aren't geeky gearheads like us.
They don't care.
I mean,
they just want to hear something. How does it sound? Cool. Yeah. When can I book?
Even with my pedal mods, you'd be surprised how many guitarists literally don't know their pedals. Like, don't. It makes a cool sound. Like they don't know, like there are magic elves in the box or something that they have to feed. Yeah. But I perfectly understand it. I know numerous people that get very upset about that. Like, oh my God, you're a guitarist. You should know all your gear. And I'm like, their fingers seem to know what they're doing. Yeah. Like that. Isn't that the measure of a guitarist? Not all this stuff like right here. As long as they know this. Yeah. The other stuff just helps them make cool sounds, really. Yeah. So, and on that note, why don't you tell us a little bit about where people can find out information about the Art Institute?
The Art Institute, they're in various cities around the U.S. We're here in Houston. We have 2 campuses, for example. I know Atlanta, Austin. For example, just for Texas, we have Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and then 2 in Houston, I believe. I believe it's ai.edu.
Okay.
I go through the teacher portal and everything, but also for schools, I say a big thing on tours. Mm-hmm. Always go tour the school.
Yes.
Don't just. I know Google is popular right now. You can do these Google kind of virtual tours. That's nice for a big university, but really you have to go. Yeah. Take a tour. Get a tour by whoever gives you the tour. Somebody told me this when I was in school, so I tell everybody else to, ask a student, hey, what do you think about the school?
Absolutely. And not just that. One of the things that, like, whenever I went to University of Dallas my first year in college, not only did they invite me, I mean, granted, I went as a seminary student, but not only did they invite me up for the weekend, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but they actually took me to classes.
That's perfect.
Like, I actually got to sit and history was all right. It was really cool later. Just happened to be a really boring subject that day. The English class was okay. But, buddy, the day I sat in the back of philosophy of man, I was like, sold, dude. Like, done. This is where I'm going to school. I'm all about it. Yeah. And, it really did take meeting the students, getting to sit in a class. And, hey, you'd be surprised, man, especially if somewhere as such a small campus as the Art Institute, where it's a very intimate atmosphere, where they would absolutely let you come in and probably sit in the back of a class for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, usually there are open houses where the faculty, we have to volunteer and, give an open house and say, oh, this is kind of what you'll learn. I mean, if anything, it's kind of like an internship, how I treated internships. You go to an internship to see what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of, you say, oh, I want to work here. I want to do this. But sometimes you go, I think I kind of want to go there. That's when you need to go check it out and then listen to somebody and say, before I spend all this money, maybe I really want to be a video person. Or, in music school, they say the first day they sit you down in orientation, I think it was like 60% of you guys will not be here next year.
Yep.
After the first year. I thought it's probably every school, but it's really ridiculous. But it's just
true.
because people don't know. They have the false hope of, oh, I like music a little bit, so I'm going to go major in it.
I'm gonna go make
audio.
a whole bunch of music, and it's like, dude, there's a lot of science in there too, fella.
Yeah, yeah, and knowing, a friend of a friend, I asked them, oh, you're going to this school, what's your degree? And they had no idea what the degree was. I go, you're spending money, or somebody's spending money. You and me were spending their money, maybe you're paying for it. You don't know what degree it is. You should probably find out.
You should probably check into that.
Is it a bachelor's of science, of art, of music?
Is it accredited?
Yeah, is it accredited? Yeah, who is it accredited by? You know,
Joe's Music School.
Yeah, and there's tons of studios that offer that, which is fine.
Absolutely,
but you just have to know what you're getting into.
I offer it. Like if anybody ever wants to be trained in audio engineering and wants to learn to use a board or video edit, I can absolutely do private lessons and give you a leg up and teach you all kinds of stuff that, quite honestly, if you went to a program, you probably wouldn't get to touch half that gear until into your second year.
Yeah, it would take a while, exactly.
You know, you'd be doing a lot of book learning first.
Oh, yeah.
And that's literally just like in a normal college, that's the weed out process.
Mm-hmm.
They'll rapidly find out who's really into it
mm-hmm.
and who needs to touch the $10,000 console.
Or $300,000
console, depending on the school and where it is.
Yeah. I mean, school is a funny thing now. You can't really go anywhere without it.
Yep.
But I just hate to see people waste their time.
Yeah.
You know, when I give tours or I give the open house, I'm honest. Well, I say, this is what it is. This is what it's not.
See, I wouldn't necessarily say that you couldn't go anywhere without it. Mainly because I have no college degree.
Yeah. I would. Me
going out and working in a studio full time, totally different story.
Yeah, I see. Maybe jumping into things right away. It gives you kind of connections because you can intern.
Absolutely.
Legally through the IRS, you're supposed to either get paid or have an internship. So if you're not doing either one of those, you're illegal.
Yes.
So being in a school, you know, that's helps. You know, and moving here, that was a bad thing of being a professional. You move to a new city, you don't know anybody.
It's hard.
You can't really go intern legally. Legally. I mean, it happens.
Like we were saying the other day, should you be?
Right.
Should you be? Because there's a time for that, and then there's a time when you really do have to put your foot down and say, this is how much it costs to play on my corner.
Right. There's a video going around today. The guy, it's in a different language. Have you seen it? And they're talking. Oh, we'll watch it. And he's laughing, and I think they just overdubbed it. He says, oh, this guy wanted to pay me $150 for the day, and everybody's doing it for free, and it's a different language. It's a dub. Yeah. It's a good funny video that everybody in the tech world would get it right away.
Absolutely get it. And you know, that's just it. When it comes down to it, it comes down to the drive to learn, wanting to learn, and putting yourself in the situation to learn. Yeah,
just showing up to class. I have to say that too. Yes. You know, when the kids don't show up to class, how are you going to how are you first going to get recommendations for your internship?
Yeah.
You know, the teacher's not going to recommend you. And then, you know, if you can't show up on time here, usually you're not showing up on time later. And you know, it's not going to happen later. If you go, I'll just wait for it.
No, probably not. It is definitely.
We'll fix it in the mix.
And we'll fix it in post. Yeah, it's definitely something that, you know, this industry's Fight Club, man. You choose your level of involvement.
Yeah,
you really do, and it shows every day. And the people who see it will always recognize it. Always. And man, I want to thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, tell us where we can go and find things for Lucky Run Studios.
Lucky Run Studio, it's luckyrunstudio.com. I also have my own website, jeremydudman.com. And either one of those, and like I said, the Art Institute, AI.edu, any city around the U.S. Not everybody has audio, though, but most programs do have audio. So check out any of those or check out my website and I can help you out with any or all of the above.
Absolutely. And if you ever need an engineer in the Houston area, this is the man that you need to call right here.
Or I have plenty of students that I can refer you to. So good students.
Referral type students, everybody. And on that note, please stop by and visit us online, www.talkingsoundshow.com. There you can find all of the technical articles, all of the blog entries that are tips and tricks. You can also find the video content as well as technical videos. We also have our Patreon page there. Right now, we are getting very close to the goal for our Talking Sound phone app and mobile app.
Great.
So hopefully we can get there very soon. Hopefully after South by, we're hoping.
Cool.
But until then, everybody, please keep tuning in, keep listening, and until next time, keep reaching for 11, everyone. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
This is Talking Sound.